For Unit 1, Part 2 review, number 1 is to solve the linear inequality, and then you need to match your answer. So first I would draw my line, and I would move my x from the right side to the left side, so I can set it up like a two-step inequality. So 2 minus 5 gives me 3x plus 7 less than or equal to negative 11. I subtract 7 from both sides, and I would get a negative 18. Since they're both negative, I add and keep my sign here. Now I'm dividing by negative 3, and if I divide by a negative divided by a negative is a positive 6. But I have to understand that when I divide by a negative, I have to flip the inequality. So if I flip it, it would match with letter C. X is greater than or equal to 6. Okay? For number 2, 3, and 4, it says to solve the inequality, match the inequality with the correct solution. And then round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So for number 2, I would go ahead and draw my line, and I want to get these x's together. Okay, so to do that, I would subtract my 12x, or my 12.6x to both sides. So 7.5 minus 12.6, this gives me a negative 5.1x. Bring down the 11.1 greater than negative 15. So I really just got to pay attention to my signs when I bring down my different numbers here. Okay. Now these two numbers are like terms, so I'm going to subtract the 11.1, and I get negative 5.1x is greater than, and then I have to add these two numbers and keep it negative. So if I add them, I get 26.1. Now I have to divide by the negative 5.1, and I would get x. I have to flip the inequality. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and if I divide that, I get 5.117. Now it says round to the nearest tenth, so this one makes this one stay the same. So I would have x is less than 5.1. So over here, that would match to letter C. So 2 is C. Make sure you write your letter over here. Okay, number 3. I would need to distribute. So negative 6 times 12 is negative 72x. Negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. Less than 318.6 minus 6x. Draw my line, and I want to get this x over here to this x. So I would add 6x. Okay, so if I combine that, we would get negative 66x minus 18 is less than 318.6. Now we add the 18 over. And negative 66x is less than, we would get 336.6. Lastly, to get x by itself, I divide by negative 66. Okay, so I would get x. I have to flip my inequality because I divided by a negative. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And if I divide those, I get negative 5.1. So this matches to B, greater than negative 5.1. So I just went ahead and marked it there. Okay, obviously I know that 4 should be A, but I need to show work. So, draw my line, add my 3.6x over to my other x. We get 6.9x. Okay. Then I subtract 18 to both sides. And I have 6.9x greater than, I subtract that and I get 35.19. Divide both sides by 6.9. And I divide it by a positive, so I leave it the same. When I divide this, I get 5.1. And then that should match to A, which it does. So make sure I put A there on the line. Alright. Now, for 5 through 10, it's just solving inequalities. So the first one there is just a two-step inequality. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So 5x is greater than 10. Divide both sides by 5. And x is greater than 2. Okay? In number 6, it's also a two-step, but we have a -4 here, changing it up a little bit. So subtract 3. -4 is less than or equal to -8. Then I divide by -4 to get x by itself. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And because I divided by a negative, I have to flip the inequality. So x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, for number 7, I would distribute my -3 and get -6x, positive 12, greater than -18. Subtract my 12, get -6x is greater than, add because I have the same sign, that would be 30, -30. Divide by -6, and x, flip my inequality. If I divide, I get positive 5. Okay, for number 8, here I want to get these variables together. So I see I only have 3 terms, but 2 of them are variables. So I'm going to move that 9x over, just so I can match it up, and I would get 3x. So greater than or equal to 24. I would divide by 3, and x is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, number 9, since the variables are on the same side here, I want to combine them. So 17x minus 7x is 10x. Minus 30 greater than or equal to 50. I add 30 over, and I get 10x is greater than or equal to 80. Lastly, I divide by 10, and x is greater than or equal to 80 divided by a positive 10 is going to be just 8. Okay, for number 10, draw my line, get my x's together. So I have taught you guys that we're going to go from the right side to the left side. So I subtract the 6x, and 15 minus 6 is 9x, plus 7 greater than 52. Now we're at a two-step. So we're going to subtract 7, and 9x is greater than 45. So I would divide by 9, and I would get 5. But I make sure I put my greater than symbol there too. Okay. For number 11, it says if you have $22 to spend on pizza, it costs $12 plus 60 cents for each additional topping, tax included. So here I would go, okay, well, if I only have $22 in my pocket, I can spend an equal amount, 22, or I can spend less than $22. I cannot spend more than that. It costs 60 cents per topping plus $12 for the pizza. So X is my toppings. And then I want to rewrite this and solve it as a two-step inequality. So I would subtract 12, and 0.60x is less than or equal to 10. So then I divide by the 0.60, and x is less than or equal to, what does that come out to be? 1,666 repeating. Okay? But when we solve these types of problems, we talked about how we always round down so that we have enough money to buy the pizza plus those toppings. So we can get 16 toppings, round down. Is this reasonable? Yes, it is reasonable. And because you must round down, since we can buy a $12 pizza with 16 toppings.